you have a passion for writing.
Yes, I do.
And I want to ask you as to who are the best authors that you read or you've read, and then how do you maintain, this? You're a busy man, and yet you find time to write such wonderful books. How does that go hand in hand?
So that is the art of execution in writing as well. So thank you for raising that. I will come to that. But since you asked me who are my favorite writers, I think the writer who I grew up with, whom I loved, was R.K. Narayan. Fascinating stories of Malgudi, a small fictional town in India. Swami and Friends was my favorite book. So I can read R.K. Narayan time and again.
Fantastic.
Then, of course, I got to love authors like Arthur Conan Doyle, who's written the Sherlock Holmes series of books. I love reading P.G. Wodehouse. When I grew up a little bit, I began to enjoy the works of Gabriel Garcia Marquez. 100 Years of Solitude is a book that I would go to every year and read time and again. And in the more recent past, I've loved reading Salman Rushdie. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. But your question on the discipline of writing and execution in writing is as important as it is in business. Okay, I realized I have a passion for writing, but in my day job, either as the chief operating officer of Titan or as the brand custodian in Tata Sons, it was impossible to write on a weekday. Weekdays used to go completely dedicated to the work that was my day job, whether it was as brand custodian or chief operating officer. So I understood early on that the only time I could actually get to pursue my passion with a vengeance was weekends. And even there, I chose a Sunday because Saturdays would go out with the family. Saturdays you would have some catching up work to do during the week. Sometimes there would be office work that spills over that needs to get done on a Saturday. But what I would do, Deepesh, is every Sunday morning after my breakfast, I would sit down to write. And I would not get up from my laptop computer until I have written 1,000 words. Wow. Okay, that requires discipline. It didn't happen easily. Now, many people may feel that writing is about creativity and writing is about inspiration. It may well be. But far more than creativity and inspiration, it is the ability to sit down and write. When you want to do something, you should not procrastinate. And until I wrote 1,000 words, I would not get up. And that really helped me with pursuing my writing, and that's how I've been able to publish 6 books over the course of the last 10 years since I began writing books actively. The other thing that I also did on writing was, constantly read the best writers so that you benchmark yourself with the best.
True.
It's very important that we don't get insular. Sometimes a book of mine does well, it becomes a bestseller. But I have to understand that there are hundreds of miles for me to cover before I can, write like a Gabriel Garcia Marquez or a Salman Rushdie. It's a heaven and earth difference. So you have to benchmark yourself against the best. You have to keep reading and reading and reading so that your sights are always set very high. The third thing that I do is you have to give yourself space to write. Some of the things, I'm sure even in business, it's always true. When you have to think through some of the most difficult issues. You have a brainstorming session, you have an ideation session. You need to give yourself space to come out with those ideas, to come out with those thoughts. So when I write, I make sure that, writing, I always tell myself, is a little bit like a tapasya. When you do tapasya, you have to give yourself space. You can't do it in the middle of a stadium. You can do it, when you're alone somewhere. So you have to give yourself space, and I began giving myself that space. It also meant that I had to cut out some other things that I liked very much. For instance, in my 30s and 40s, I was a very keen cricketer. I used to be part of the Tata Tea cricket team, and we used to play every weekend. But once I decided that I had to achieve world-class standards in writing, I had to actually give up on playing cricket because the two just took too much time. And just like you said, you have to prioritize your goals for business.
True.
Even if you have to pursue your passions, you have to prioritize your goals and you have to decide what you want to do and what you should not do. So writing is a passion, and I hope to continue that for the rest of my life.
Thank you very much. They say that if you find a successful person, you'll find a successful routine. The Sunday routine that you had, the 1,000-word routine that you had, and you do that consistently.
This is true.
And this is where you have reached.
This is very true, and I'm happy that I got into that routine. It may sound a little boring, that you have a routine, but what makes it really interesting is the content that goes into those 2 or 3 hours.
Absolutely.
And the imagination that goes into those 2 or 3 hours.
True.
And I'm sure each of us in our jobs as well, there is a routine that we have.
There has to be a routine.
There is a review routine that we have. There's an
Absolutely.
execution routine that we have. When I was part of Tata Tea and Titan, there was a market visit routine that I had to understand exactly what's happening in the market, meet trade and customers. So I think, routine kind of, rather than routine, I would say it's a discipline of doing things.
True.
And the discipline of doing things is very, very important to us. It also ensures, Deepesh, in many ways that our say-do ratio is very high. It's easy to say things, but I think the crux of winning really remains in doing those things.